Thank you, Judge.
All right, it's 9 a.m. Monday morning, June 17th. We'll bring this Elections Administrative Board, Somervell County, to order. Let the record show Michelle Reynolds, April Gann, Danny Chambers, Bob Miller, and Tanya Loxton are all present. We'll just run down a few ground rules. How you doing, Judy? Mike, what's going on back there? Let's all be respectful of each other as we work our way through this. If we will, the ones that want to speak, come up to the podium. Make sure the red light is on the microphone. This is being recorded in case we ever need a transcript for any future reference or anything, investigations, whatever. All right. Christy, would you like to go first? I know there were several things last time that you'd like to address, or would you like Cass to go first? How would you like to do that?
Actually, I think I'll let Cass go first.
All right. Cass, you're up. Make yourself at home, and if you will, just make sure that microphone's turned on so we get a good recording. And I think I said this, I might not have, let's speak one at a time. So if we do need a transcript at a later date, it won't be hard to do. And I would say your last name, but I knew I'd mess it up. Wyatt?
You win.
Did it? Got it right.
Very few do.
If you don't mind, I'll just have you state your name before you start.
I will. Say it a lot.
There you go.
I'll say it a lot today. Everybody's going to know my name. I need to speak to the election training. Apparently there are questions and concerns, and I'm going to speak to the election training for the early voting ballot board. I am Cassandra Wyatt. I'm the Republican judge of the early voting ballot board. Election training, October 2023. Elections Administrator Christy Covey and the early voting ballot board judge Cassandra Wyatt called the Texas Secretary of State Elections Division and received clarification concerning election training requirements. In-person training was preferred over online training. Online training was available if an election worker was unable to attend an in-person training session. No certificate was required for in-person training. October 25th, 2023, 9 a.m. in the Somervell County Annex in the room across the hall from the county judge's office, Cassandra Wyatt, Vicki Katner, Sharon Riggs, and Cindy Pritchard attended an in-person election training specific to early voting ballot board regulations given by Election Administrator Christy Covey per the Handbook for Early Voting Ballot Board 2023 issued by the Office of the Texas Secretary of State Elections Division. February 15th, 2024, 3 p.m. In the Somervell County Commissioner's Courtroom, Cassandra Wyatt, Vicki Katner, Sharon Riggs, and Cindy Pritchard attended an in-person election training for all election workers given by the Elections Administrator, Christy Covey. This letter is signed by Christy Covey, Cassandra Wyatt, and Evelina Ramos. Early Voting Ballot Board. Cassandra Wyant, early voting ballot board judge, Republican. Vicki Katner, alternate judge, Republican. Sharon Riggs, presiding judge, Democrat. Cindy Pritchard, alternate judge, Democrat. We wrote this on May 29th, 2024. This is to Judge Danny Chambers and the County Election Commission. It is a response to the letter dated April the 10th, 2024, written by Melody Bruning, poll watcher. I, Cassandra Wyant, am reporting the timeline of communication to me about a written letter of accusations of criminal, let me be clear, criminal interference with the Republican Democratic primary election on March the 5th, 2024. All the way to May 17th, 2024. Early voting ballot board met to assess the Republican primary mail-ins to qualify the carrier envelopes as per election law. Specifically, quote, in all counties and local political subdivisions, regardless of population size, may begin meeting at any time they have ballots to review. However, the first meeting must take place not later than the 9th day before Election Day, Section 87.0222 of the Election Code. Cassandra Wyant and Republican Clerk Teresa Neese assessed 7 mail-in ballot carrier envelopes for qualification, if qualified, to be opened on Election Day to be counted. At that time, Elections Administrator Christy Covey asked me, Cassandra Wyant, if I had heard of the letter. I said, what letter? And may I see it? Christy did not have a copy of the letter. Christy explained to me about the County Election Commission she reports to and the meeting on April 15th, 2024. May 21st, 2024. I met with Judge Chambers and received a copy of the letter dated April the 10th, 2024, additional meeting minutes, and the commentary. There was a called meeting of the County Elections Commission April 15th, 2024. Cassandra Wyant, Vicki Katner, Sharon Riggs, and Cindy Pritchard learned about this letter and its contents 78 days after the election on March the 5th, 2024. On March the 5th, 2024, the early voting ballot board members took the oath for joint primary elections prior to beginning their duties. I'm quoting. Please listen to this oath that we take. I swear or affirm that I will objectively work to be sure every eligible voter's vote is accepted and counted, and that only the ballots of those voters who violated the Texas Election Code will be rejected. I will make every effort to correctly reflect the voter's intent when it can be clearly determined. I will not work alone when ballots are present, and will work only in the presence of a member of a political party different from my own. I will faithfully perform my duty as an officer of the election and guard the purity of the election, unquote. Section 87.006 of the Election Code. Per the Poll Watcher's Guide from the Texas Secretary of State Elections Division, page 2, quote, a watcher appointed under Chapter 33 shall observe without obstructing the conduct of any election and call to the attention of an election officer any observed or suspected irregularity or violation of the law in the conduct of the election, unquote. Section 33.0015 of the Election Code. This is in real time When the poll watcher believes that they are seeing something illegal, you say so then. A law enforcement officer was present with the early voting ballot board throughout the day. To my knowledge, on March the 5th, 2024, the poll watcher did not call to the attention of anyone any observed or suspected irregularity or violation of the law. No notification to the election administrator, Christy Covey. No notification to the law enforcement officer present with the early voting ballot board performing the election duties. No notification to any election officer present. The poll watcher commented at least 5 to 6 times during her time with the early voting ballot board that we all certainly knew what we were doing. At least one time she commented on how impressed she was with the process and our duties. Never did she comment to any member of the early voting ballot board concerning any irregularity or violation of the law. Throughout the day, I did help the poll watcher know when there was a duty she might want to observe per the poll watcher guide and handbook for the early voting ballot board, prepared by the Office of the Texas Secretary of State Elections Division. During the early mail-in ballot qualifying, some carrier envelopes did not have a voter's matching ID or last 4 digits of the Social Security number on the application and the mail-in envelope. I asked the poll watcher if she would like to accompany me to Christie's office to check the voter data in order to qualify the ballot. Quote, "The voter must also provide this personal identification information on the application for the ballot by mail. However, if the voter includes an identification number on the carrier envelope, the number on the carrier envelope does not have to match the type of number on the voter's application for ballot by mail, as long as both numbers are associated with the voter's registration record." Section 84.002A1A 86.002G of the Election Code. This registration record is part of the voter data that Christie can access. The poll watcher did not know this regulation. She accompanied me to Christie's office to observe the task. Accompanying me back to the early voting ballot board meeting room, she commented that we certainly knew what we were doing. At approximately noon, the poll watcher stated that she needed to go vote and had not brought lunch. She was concerned that she would not have time to do so. I explained that once we began to put the ballots through the mail-in voting machine, that she would have to stay until completed. The poll watcher did not know this regulation. Quote, "The watcher may leave without permission from the judge, except that the watcher is present at the polling place when ballots are being counted. The watcher may not leave until the counting is complete." Unquote. Section 33.052. I told the poll watcher we would begin counting the mail-in ballots through the machine at approximately 2 p.m. The poll watcher decided to vote and have lunch before we started counting. The poll watcher returned before we started counting. The poll watcher observed us counting the ballots with the mail-in ballot machine. We had 4 mail-in ballots that were not accepted through the machine. This is not unusual due to folding or compromised paper through the mailing process. We requested a new unmarked ballot from the elections administrator, Christie, for each instance. There are no new unmarked ballots with the early voting ballot board. A Republican and a Democrat together copied the voter's mail-in ballot to a new ballot for the machine to accept. Never does only one worker copy the ballot. Never is the ballot altered or changed. I explained this to the poll watcher when we were performing the copying of the voter's ballot. She looked at the voter's ballot and the new ballot for a few seconds and returned to her chair behind us, not viewing the ballot copying process. I explained that the poll watcher that she could observe the copying of the ballots. The poll watcher chose to remain in her chair. She was present for all mail-in counting in the voting machine and for the printing of the results paper. The poll watcher signed the voting results paper with the early voting ballot board members, documenting her agreement with the voting results and election process she observed on March the 5th, 2024. She observed the filling of the large envelopes with the voting results papers and other paperwork. The large envelopes go to the primary county chairs, the election administrator registrar, and the early voting ballot board judge. The media stick, ballot counting machines with ballots locked inside, all envelopes with voting results, and all other paperwork to the above-mentioned assigned positions were delivered to the election administrator, Christie, and her locked storage room inside the county clerk's vault before the early voting ballot board members adjourned at the end of the day. The poll watcher stated how much she had learned and again commented that we knew what we were doing and how she might enjoy being an election worker. Her demeanor was always friendly, pleasant, with no apparent frustration or negativity. The letter of unfounded accusations is cause for concern. Respectfully, Cassandra Wyant, Vicki Katner, Sharon Riggs, and Cindy Pritchard. Let's see.
Cass, I have a question. Go back to the previous page and the bottom two lines. And you said she looked at the voter's ballot and the new ballot for a few seconds?
Well, you want me to clarify?
Yes.
Okay. So,
This was before you,
yeah, so here we are at the table.
okay,
This is Cindy Pritchard sitting right here.
okay. There you go, Greg. I see.
She's got better hair.
This is Cassandra Wyant sitting right here. Our backs are to the chairs. She sat approximately here. So when I said what we were doing, what we were in the process of doing, I had the mail-in ballot that would not go through the machine. Cindy Pritchard, pen in hand, has the new ballot given to us by Christie. So when I turned and I explained, this is what we're doing and why, she got up and just walked over and just kind of did a quick little glance and went back and sat down. So we were here with our backs to the chairs and down, and we began the process. She's got her pad, her pen, and she's working on the ballot. I'm calling it out. You see how close we are together. Not only am I saying the names, she can easily look and double check me. She's right here. I can easily look and double check that she's marking it correctly. The whole time we are involved with the actual process of that copying, she chose to sit in her chair.
And where's the tally machine? Right over there, okay.
Yep. Yeah, they live right here. We were in this room on March 5th, and that's kind of important to understand. Let's see, Christie? I'm taking this from, I'm taking this from Christy Covey. This is not my role. This is the election administrator's role. This goes to her once we're finished. Okay. When we sign this thing that actually goes to the elections administrator, part of what's being said here is that these results, any results we have done that day, everything we've done that day, is correct to the best of our abilities and certainly legal as best as we understand it. When you sign this, you are agreeing to that. Let's see. Cassandra Wyatt, Sharon Riggs, Vicki Katner, Cynthia Pritchard,
And Melody.
Melody Bruning, poll watcher. So we did that once. Go down. Here we go again. Number 2. Cassandra Wyatt, Sharon Riggs, Vicki Katner, Cynthia Pritchard, and Melody Bruning, poll watcher. Number 3. Cassandra Wyatt, Sharon Riggs, Vicki Katner, Cynthia Pritchard, Melody Bruning, poll watcher. I think it's just 3. I don't think there's a 4th. Yeah. So that is what is given to us. We have little marks that we can sign on. And we did. All of us.
How much does she have in that little folder right there? You pulled a lot of that little
We
folder.
may be here all day.
I see you pull a lot out of that little folder. I didn't think it'd hold that much. And we might want to mention, and I don't see Cindy. Is Cindy here?
Cindy is not here. I'm fixing to hand you her letter.
3 of the 4 ladies that signed this are actually present here today. That's the reason I just don't make that for the record.
And this is, since Cindy could not be here, she wrote her own letter and requested that the judge read it.
Okay. So I guess we'll probably file all this with the election board meeting. All right. All right, and this is from Cindy Pritchard, signed 6/6/2024. Regretfully, I could not attend this meeting concerning March 5th, 2024 election. Please consider my letter. On March 5th, the early voting mail-in judges met to count the total ballots from the voting machine and actual mail-in envelopes. Our duties encompass mail-in envelope qualification by 1 Republican and 1 Democrat together. We confirm and tabulate ballot machines and ballot count. A required law officer was present. Melanie Bruning was present as a poll watcher. She was welcomed by all. Cassandra Wyatt, Vicki Kentner, Sharon Riggs, and myself, Cindy Pritchard, began the process. Cassandra opened with the election oath, then opened the machines. Ms. Bruning stated she had not voted. Cassandra explained the poll watcher cannot leave once the ballots are being counted. Ms. Bruning was able to leave to vote and have lunch. She returned before ballots were counted and was able to observe the task. As the mail-in ballots were fed into the machine rejected damaged ballots. When a mail-in is rejected by the machine because of paper ballot issue, we then copy that ballot information to a new ballot. This is to ensure the ballot is counted. Cassandra and I copied the information from the damaged ballot to a new ballot. Cassandra called the names, I marked the new ballot. Cassandra explained to Ms. Bruning that we were doing and asked her to watch the process. She got up, came to the table, turned around, and sat back down. This was her opportunity to question us or report to the law officer any dishonesty. In reference to election training, the EVBB, Election Voter Ballot
Early
Board,
Voting Ballot Board.
met with Christy Covey, election administrator, for in-person training. per the Secretary of State office. In-person training is preferred, but online training is offered for those who cannot attend. With in-person training, a certificate is not required. The election voting ballot board was made of 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. At all times, one of each party worked together. There have never been any issues. Cassandra has a text and election book open at all times for questions that could arise. In my defense, Ms. Bruning stated in the letter dated April the 10th that she witnessed a worker altering ballots. This is not true. In a letter written by Tanya Loxon referring to the call meeting on April 15th, she accused us of changing 4 ballots. She talked about Christy Covey's parameters for the correct way to recreate a ballot. Ms. Bruning stated she witnessed the changing of 4 ballots, not recreating. Again, this is not true. Ms. Bruning and Tanya Loxon have made egregious accusations of election tampering. I consider this defamation of character. In my view, they should never be allowed to be involved in the elections of Somervell County. Signed, Cindy Pritchard, 6/6/2024. Anything else?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
How did
yeah.
I know?
We do a lot of this rolling tape stuff.
Back and forth, back and forth. Thank you.
Early voting ballot board, Cassandra Wyatt, early voting ballot board judge, Republican. Vicki Katner, alternate judge, Republican. Teresa Neese, clerk, Republican. And this is in reference to May 28th, 2024, Republican runoff election. There are no Democrats present for this. It was a Republican runoff. The poll watcher, Melody Bruning, arrived at approximately 9 a.m. to the election administrator's designated room inside the county clerk's vault. This little room, I like to call it the closet. It is in the county clerk's vault around to the side. That now is all election administrator's territory. Nobody uses it but Christy and Evelina. She commented to Cassandra Wyatt, "You look familiar to me. Do I know you?" She looked at Vicki Katner, not recognizing her. She would not have known Teresa Neese. Cassandra Wyatt stated, "You were with us on March the 5th, 2024, primary election day." The poll watcher began laughing and laughing and laughing and commented, "I remember you now, and you all were so sweet." She then settled in her chair and stated that, "I did not want to be here today, but here I am anyway. I would rather be somewhere else, not here. They told me I had to be here, so here I am." She reiterated this statement more than once. "They told me I had to be here, so here I am." The poll watcher's paperwork was incomplete, and she did not know what to do in order to complete it. Cassandra Wyatt suggested that she go to the election administrator, Christy Covey's office, to complete it so it could be signed by me, Cassandra Wyatt. She did so, and the paperwork was completed and signed. The early voting ballot board did not begin any of their duties until the poll watcher's paperwork was complete, she was present, and the law officer, the law enforcement officer that is always with the early voting ballot board, arrived. The poll watcher observed all the early voting ballot board activities and duties. The poll watcher accompanied Cassandra Wyatt to Christy Covey's office to check carrier envelope numbers. As the poll watcher and Cassandra Wyatt were returning through the county clerk's office hallway to the vault, The poll watcher stated, "You have a great team. You really do know what you are doing." The poll watchers signed the voting results with the early voting ballot board members, documenting her agreement with the voting results and election process she observed on May 28, 2024. To our knowledge, no concerns were reported to the early voting ballot board officers or the law enforcement officer. Respectfully, Cassandra Wyatt, Vicki Katner, Teresa Neese.
I'm done.
Thank you,
Like I said,
Kath.
I'm Teresa Neese.
I
I'm
know
the
your first name, I
newbie.
didn't know your last name.
Neese.
Neese.
I'm the newbie.
Yeah, a lot of these ladies sitting here have been doing it 25, 30 years.
Yeah. Well, we just moved to Glen Mills not long ago, so, or I would probably been doing more. Okay, as I stated, I'm Teresa Neese. My husband and I, Roy Neese, moved here in September of 2019. We live in the Oaks, south of town. However, we've had that property since 2000. Glen Rose is always, it's not in the thing, but just I wanted to let y'all know. Glen Rose has always been one of our favorite towns. In mid-70s, my husband and I moved to Alvarado from San Antonio. He was a state trooper, highway patrolman. He had Johnson County. Roger Hill, I don't know how many people remember him.
Oh, yeah.
He was the highway patrolman
Many
station in
times.
Somervell County. Anyway, so we came to Glen Rose quite often. We loved the town, and my husband said, you know, when we retire, that's where I want to live. And we didn't know anybody other than Roger. Of course, he's gone now, but I'm just going to give you some history about how I feel about Glen Rose, Texas. I attended the voter training class led by Christy Covey on February the 15th, 2024 in the Commissioner's Court right here in Glen Rose. This training was for the primary election held on March the 5th, 2024, in which I only worked the early voting election. I did not work election day. I asked the question to Christy, since this is the first time I've ever worked a primary election, what if people tell you when they don't want to choose a party? Because I said, you know, they have to choose a party, which was, I didn't remember that. And she said, tell them during the primary election, it is the law to pick a party. But then in the actual election in November, then you can choose which candidate of each party that you want. I said, great. Later on, I was asked by Chris, oh, and we did have a couple of voters that did come in, and they did not want to choose. They wanted to be a Democrat, but they wanted to vote for Republican. We said, no. Anyway, so that came in handy as to how to respond to them. Later on, I was asked by Christy to help out with the mail-in voting ballots with Cass, as she needed help with the primary election runoff. I think Vicki, someone was not here. Vicki was absent, so, and I had gone to Christy, I would really like to do more, and she called me. I said, sure. So Cass and I worked May 17th to check mail-in ballots that had come in. That's the new law that you have to do 9 days before the actual election to see if we had any. We had, I think she said 7. She taught me a lot about what her team does and was very thorough, because I had not done this before. Then on May 28th, the election runoff day, I met with Cass, Vicki, a poll watcher named Melody, and the Sheriff's Department in the vault at the City Hall. The same place I met Cass on May 17th. The poll watcher told us that she did not want to be there. They told her to come, but she would rather be someplace else. She voiced no concerns that day, nor did she notify the officer of any wrongdoing.
killed a lot of trees.
We're not green today, huh? That's all right.
I'm Vicki Katner, and mine's going to be kind of short and sweet. Participating in the election process is our civic responsibility. We in Somervell County, Republican and Democrat alike, have worked side by side in unity for as long as I have been involved. Between us, there are 50-plus years of election experience. Together, we follow the letter of the law to ensure all legal votes are counted. As a high school teacher, I taught my students the value of integrity. I do not appreciate this defamation of character. Whoever appoints poll watchers should be very careful to choose people who do not have a political agenda. Let's not let political discord of Washington, D.C. and the big cities trickle down to discord in Somervell County.
Thank you, Peter.
I think I'm closing my little book.
Well, we all have a better idea of how early voting works. Do we have any questions for these ladies at all? I think they understand their job very well. Anybody have any questions or comments for these ladies?
I have a comment.
You bet.
So, in the letter referenced on, let's see, it's signed by Cassandra Wyant, Vicki Katner, and Teresa Neese. And it talks about the poll watcher's paperwork was incomplete and she did not know what to do in order to complete it. Why did she not know how to do her job, and how come she didn't know how to complete the form? Does anyone know why?
Can I answer that for you?
Yes.
First off, I believe she was appointed by Helen Kerwin. The way the appointment works for a poll watcher, and ladies correct me if I'm incorrect, is whoever does the appointment is required to fill out the appointment paper. The paper's to be filled out, given to the poll watcher. The poll watcher takes that and her poll watching certificate and presents them to Christy Covey, correct? Or, I mean, to the judge, to the election judge, head judge for whatever poll that they are watching, whether it's early voting or during the counting or over at the expo when we have voting day. And so the paperwork not being filled out would have been a Helen Kerwin issue. She's required to fill it out. She was the one that appointed. Am I correct, Melody? Is that who appointed you on that day, was Helen Kerwin?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe Chip Jocelyn appointed Melody on the primary election day, and he had to do the same thing. Now, I know both Chip and Helen were provided with the correct link because they both contacted us, myself and Julia. We gave them the link to the form that had to be filled out, and we reiterated on many occasions with them, make sure you fill out the paperwork properly, make sure Melody gets a copy of it.
So if if the paperwork isn't filled out accordingly and properly, does that disqualify her?
You know, I don't know. That would be an SOS question.
Okay.
Do you know, Christy?
I would definitely think so, unless it could be resolved in like a timely manner, and then they could come back. But yeah, I can definitely get clarification on that.
Thank you. That's my question.
Chris, did you have anything that you wanted to say to rebut anything that was said in our last meeting on April 15th?
So yeah, I do have a couple of things. So I know Cass brought up a couple of points on training. The primary, when we did training, I knew we had several new people, so we went a lot more in depth than what we normally do because of the fact that not everybody knew what they were doing. Normally we have the same people and they are really good about what they do. In our training handbooks, we have user guides and manuals on how to operate all the equipment, how to turn it on, how to turn it off, if there's a troubleshooting issue. If it's something a little more major, then of course they'll call us and say, hey, come help. So we do have that. We have their handbooks in there, but I have actually contacted a couple of surrounding counties to see what kind of like presentations and stuff that they do. Bosque County does a PowerPoint presentation on how they turn on and off the equipment, but we had it set up. I mean, we already had it here. We did all of that in person. We just kind of covered different scenarios, like if this person comes in and they don't have this is what you do. They also do a quiz at the end, which I thought was really good. So we'll kind of work on that and see about implementing that, to cover different scenarios, like if somebody is a provisional ballot, what do you do? A, B, C, D, different, questions. It was multiple choice. And so that's a good way to see if somebody is stuck on something or if they're not understanding, then we can go a little more in depth on it. Parker County, which is actually a lot bigger than us, because sometimes it's hard to, because each county is a little different. Parker County is like 5 times our size, so they do things a little differently. They do, their poll watcher handbook is in with their judge's handbook, their guide. So that's something we can definitely do, because especially since we've started seeing more these last couple of elections that we've had. So we can definitely do that so our workers kind of know. We mostly give the handbooks to our main judges, and then they pass the information on to our workers. If they're still not understanding something, we have them work early voting. Come in for like an hour or two, because if there's going to be any issues during early voting, they'll, whatever issues we'll have will definitely come up on election day. So there's a few things that we can do. That Parker County had a step-by-step guide on like how to set up the polling place, which we do too. So I can go in and just kind of, look at that and update it and just kind of revamp it. That's something that I can look into. But those are like some of the few things that I've come across that I really liked. And as far as the accusations that came up on election day, even with the primary runoff, we had 2 ballot by mails that came in glued together. So when you open them, there's track bars that run down the side of the ballot. So those get destroyed. And the only way to fix it and get the ballot to be read is to recreate it. So we brought our ballots, they recreated it, and I haven't heard if there was any concerns or issues over that, because that was a concern from the primary. So I would think that would be a concern from the runoff as well. The concern also is waiting so long to rectify this, because I feel like this should have been rectified a long time ago. And I did ask for, some information to see, like, can I bring some people in to kind of, to like say, hey, this is what happened, this is not what happened, that kind of thing. And I really feel like during that time, this could have already been resolved. But I wasn't able to get any answers or clarification. As far as that goes, this is a pretty serious accusation. And I mean, there was a police officer present. So I don't know if she really understood the whole scope of just completely changing a ballot when the oath says, I mean, they take an oath from the state, so that's pretty scary. And, Cass has been doing it since even before Candy was here, and Candy's here to attest on her behalf. And, she's been here a long time. She's a very stickler on following the law and the book and that kind of thing. Yes, sir?
Does the poll watcher take an oath?
Do they?
They do. And I give it to them.
Back to her notebook.
I'm sorry.
You're good. Way to go, Bob. And here is this marvelous poll watcher's guide. The Secretary of State Elections Division,
August 2023. Oops. Gotta find it real quick. It's in here. And if it's not in here, I have it in mine. I thought it was in both places. I thought it was in both places.
Certificates.
That's certificates. I thought it was in this one. Yeah, here we go. Page 10. Yes, I mark everything. Is that ridiculous or what? Before accepting a watcher, the officer presented with a watcher's certificate of appointment shall require the watcher to take the following oath administered by the officer, and that would be me. I swear or affirm that I will not disrupt the voting process or harass voters in the discharge of my duties, and that's all it is. There's not one that speaks to early voting ballot board, but we've kind of had that for years. Only in the past few years do we now have our own oaths to take. We've always had the oath that goes with regular voting, but for several years now, we've had our own oath.
But with some of these letters that were presented, not only does it fall on Cass, but it falls on me as well. So we're both been pretty concerned about this, and I really feel like maybe something different could have been done, like if there's ever any complaints in the future, just like meet like a one-on-one kind of thing, and then if y'all still don't feel like something was handled, then bring the board in. Because I feel like some of these were like molehills made into mountains. Like they were easily handled, and it just got made into something bigger, except the whole poll watcher thing. That was pretty serious. But some of the other letters that were submitted, I don't feel like were for this magnitude of a meeting. I think it could have been handled a little more one-on-one. And even after this, I emailed Chip and, just explained that, hey, I just said I didn't have it. I didn't say why I didn't have it. So I did explain to him why I didn't have it. I emailed Dee Conrad, and explained to her. So really the only thing that's really left was the training issue and the poll watcher issue.
Do we have any questions for Christie? Thank you, Mal. Appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions about how the elections are ran or so forth, so on? Because these ladies know it better than I know I ever will. Some of these folks may know it, but I do not. Candy does, because she was involved in it for many, many years. Do we have any questions on how the elections are ran, or questions about comments how they should be ran?
I don't have any on that, Judge, but I do have some things I would like to address.
All right, so we'll move on from this and then move on to our next issues.
I think we need to hear from Melody Bruner.
Okay. Sorry, Trey, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll go after Melanie.
Melanie, would you like to come up and say anything at all?
Really all I've got to say is that was my...
You might want to come on up here, Miss Bruning, just so you be there by the microphone.
This was my very first time I ever took the test, and I'm still very new and green with it. And when I didn't say anything, I knew that I was supposed to remain quiet through their counting and everything that they were doing. And so I tried to do that. And after it was all said and done, I got home and I kept running these things through my head that I thought that I saw. And if I made a mistake, I apologize. But what I thought I saw, I saw. And so I went back through my test, went back online and was reading through it, and I really felt like there were things that were not on the up and up. I really thought that the ballots were changed, but now I understand why they were, no, you took one, and because it wouldn't go through the feeder, then you put it off to another one.
We did not change any ballots.
Right.
You changed from one piece of paper to another one. I get it. I get it now. I
Do
understand.
you understand what you were saying we did is a felony?
If you say we changed a ballot,
It's a felony,
Mr. I'm
Melody.
gonna let her
Let's,
speak.
let's be respectful.
Don't accuse people.
Moving, I just meant moving from one paper to another paper.
Okay.
And I understood when I took the test that that couldn't even be done. That's how I interpreted it. And then also, the very last thing was certain ballots had to be put in an envelope and handed over to Christie. Well, when we were in this room for the first one, y'all said we don't do that.
We don't put ballots in an envelope.
Well, no, it's, I can't think of what the name of the papers were, but you put them in an envelope.
The
But you didn't.
strips.
Yes, and they were supposed to be locked up and given, well, that's what I read. That's what I read.
Well, we took them to her, they were locked up in,
Well,
not
we did
only
the
in.
second time. We did the second time, but we didn't the first time, because you said, we've never done that.
They were locked. But not, the results went into, everything from this room went to Christy Covey's, I call it a closet, but it's a room, it is under that door locked, it is under the county clerk's vault. We're inside the vault. And then all the ballots are locked with a key.
Okay, well, I did, the second time I did see that.
That's exactly what we did before.
Well, I did not see that.
Did she follow us into the law on the first day?
Uh,
I don't.
Melody,
No, I never saw that room the
Melody,
first time.
I've read all the, everything, but, and I think one of the issues here is sealing things, you know. And you read in your training that everything will be sealed
Yes, sir.
and when, to me, the word seal means to make unavailable to anyone.
Yes, sir.
And I think whenever they put them in that vault and lock it, everything in there is considered sealed at that time.
But we were in here the first time. I never saw the vault the first time.
Okay.
I did.
Then there's, as a poll watcher, you have a right to see that. And I think maybe somehow we need to find out how we can allow the poll watchers to.
Did she not get to watch you the second time, take it to the vault?
We were in the vault.
We were in the vault. The first
The
time
whole-
she left, we're loaded up. The law enforcement officer helps us take the machines, all the paperwork, everything back to the vault. If you left on your own accord. You don't have to tell me. It's
No.
right there in the book.
Right, but you told me I could leave because y'all, you didn't lock it up in front of me. I told you I thought that I was supposed to stay for that.
You are, you can.
Yes, but you told me to go.
I did
don't
not
need to
tell
go.
you ever to go.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry.
You didn't tell me to go. You told me I could go.
And you didn't even have to ask me. You can
No,
leave
I
of your own
asked,
accord.
aren't you supposed to seal this? Aren't you supposed to lock this
You
up?
didn't ask any of that of any of us.
Yes, I did.
None of us.
Yes,
None
I
of the
did.
four of us that were here. Four. Heard that.
I have another question for Melody. And it comes from Cass's thing where I believe she ordered you a thing, I didn't want to be here, but they told me I had to be here. And who told you you had to be here? Who was that?
Helen Kerwin asked me to come that second time. And you know how you're nervous and you don't necessarily want to go back somewhere because you know it's going to be uncomfortable?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you do it.
That's all that meant.
And no one told you you had to be here?
The fact that Helen Kerwin asked me, to me, that was I needed to be here.
So Helen told you you had to be here?
Well, she didn't. That's just my words.
Chip Jocelyn didn't tell you
No.
you had to be here?
No.
Your husband didn't tell you you had to be here?
No.
It was Helen Crowe. Okay. The other question is, I think we've answered that.